Hi everybody, it's Mama 2 Thank you guys so much for clicking on my video and coming to my channel once again or for the first time. If this is your first time, welcome. Please make sure that you automatically, I think you should just because it's me, just like, share, subscribe to the video so you don't miss any of my other videos. And yeah, feel free to comment below. And for those who come to my video on a regular basis, thank you guys so much for constantly supporting me. So you can tell by the title, we're here to talk about the newest season of Married at First Sight. It is season 17 and they are in Denver, Colorado. So if you didn't see my video last or 2 weeks ago when I did the matchmaking special, I'll do a brief recap of what this show is about. The show comes on the Lifetime network, and the premise of the show is that hundreds of singles in a city will sign up for an experiment where they're getting married at first sight. These three experts will look at all of the forms that come in, all the applications. They'll have one-on-one interviews with the people, and then they'll narrow that pool of hundreds or thousands of people to a smaller group, and they'll pick people that they'll actually go do home visits with. And then after they do that, they narrow it down to 10 singles, and they'll match them into 5 couples. Then they'll go to the person and they'll say, hey, we found a match for you. You are getting married in 2 weeks. All that person is told is the ring size of the person that they're marrying. And in the short span of time of 2 weeks, they have to go pick out their wedding dress or their tuxedo. They obviously got to tell their family and friends. They have a joint bachelor and bachelorette party with the other singles that have been chosen for the show. And then the wedding day comes. They walk down the aisle, and that is when they meet their person. Their new husband, their new wife is at the altar. After that, they have a traditional wedding. And it's a real legitimate wedding, by the way. This is not for TV. It's a real legitimate wedding. They get married. They have their first dance. They take their wedding pictures. They have their wedding night. Most people nowadays in the later seasons do not have sex the wedding night. Most people, like 100% of them do not do that because it's still a strange in the day. No judgment. I feel like, do whatever makes you happy. Do whatever. Move however the Lord tells you to move. Amen. But they'll have sex the wedding night, or if not have sex, they'll have their wedding night. Then the next day they have brunch with their new in-laws, and then they're whisked away to their honeymoon that the show pays for. They're gone for 7 days. They come back, and all 5 couples are put up in this nice little apartment situation, and they're now living with their spouse for the next 7 weeks. At the 8-week mark of being married, they have to come back to the experts and talk about their experience and decide if they want to stay married or if they want to get a divorce. That is the premise of the show. So I will say that it was never more apparent to me that the show was on Lifetime than when I watched this first episode, because they brought the drama from the very, very beginning. And I'm a sucker because I fell for it hook, line, and sinker. And if you guys saw my matchmaking special video, I wasn't sure if I was even going to do this season. I was like, I don't really know. I've been doing it for a while. I've been watching the show for a while. I don't know if I'm really into it anymore. And they got me, y'all. They just knew exactly what I needed. I'm sure a lot of people have been complaining, and they were like, oh, let's give them something real juicy. So the matchmaking special, they matched up 4 of the couples, and then one of the guys, Michael, they're like, Michael is so special. We have to make sure we find the right person for him because he is such a unique individual, blah, 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 blah. And by the end of the episode, they haven't matched Michael. So you're like, okay, well, who the heck is Michael's wife? So when the episode starts, we see Michael, who's 38 years old. He's extremely eccentric. He has long hair and he dresses kind of funky. And he's just, this is me. And this is, I love who I am and I'm unique and blah, 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 right? They show him putting on his tux. He's like, all right, I'm ready to get married. Now, again, if you guys have never seen the show, they never, ever start an episode like this, especially one of the earlier episodes. You go through the process first of these people going to their family, going to their friends and say, hey, just letting you guys know, I got chosen for the show. I'm getting married in 2 weeks. And again, buying their clothes and all that stuff. All of that takes place first. So the fact that we start with someone getting married has never happened. So that's already red flag number 1. Like, oh, this is different. So this man puts on his tux. He has groomsmen around him. I'm so excited. I can't wait to meet my wife. I know that I'm an acquired taste, and I really hope that I did say that. I'm looking at my notes, so that's why I'm looking away. They started the episode with Michael on his actual wedding day, and I was like, is the show all of a sudden getting cinematic? Like, they're, again, bringing the drama right away. But he's all excited, got his groomsmen around him, and he's, saying, I'm an acquired taste. He said he's open to feedback, but his worry is that she won't be attracted to him. And honestly, that's a chance that everybody takes when they're on this show. Everybody has different tastes, because we've had people in the past who I think aesthetically are very pretty or handsome, and their spouse just is not feeling them for whatever reason. Because again, everybody has their taste. They also have an idea of the person that they want to be with or what they find attractive. And sometimes that doesn't end up being your spouse. And sometimes you grow to think your spouse is attractive and things work out. And sometimes that just doesn't go away. So you just never know. It's definitely a toss-up. No one really knows. But he is excited and his boys are hyping him up. He has a crown and a scepter. And I did hear that was a gift from his actual bride. I don't know if that's confirmed yet, but I did kind of hear that. So he comes down the aisle. And mind you, his family is on, I guess, the right side. The left side, he doesn't know those people, but he's like, oh, hey, do I need approval? Is it fine? He's kind of joking around with them, trying to feel them out. He has on his crown. He has the scepter. He's waiting at the altar. At the bottom of the screen, it shows 20 minutes later. So he's been waiting at the altar now for 20 minutes, right? I don't see any bridesmaids coming down the aisle. And normally you see bridesmaids and you see the bride. We don't see any bridesmaids. We see the bride come down the aisle, but the camera shoots her from behind. So all you see is a veil and you see long, dark hair. And you see a woman, obviously a woman who was wearing a dress, walking down the aisle. Again, they never shoot anything like this. So it's letting you know, okay, something's fishy. She gets all the way up there. When she's up there looking at him, again, we're only shown the back of her and we're showing his facial expression. And we hear her say, I'm sorry, I can't do this. And then the next couple clips, I guess, of the show, it's not continuous, right? It's not like she says it and then we see her walking back and then, oh my gosh, it's like she says it and then it quickly goes like this, and then we see him by himself, and then we see his friends come in to give him a hug, and then it shows him going upstairs, like it's a private room in the venue, and he's crying, he's upset, and they're like, Mikey, it's okay, you deserve better, somebody is gonna blah 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 blah, they're gonna love you or whatever. And then screen goes black and it says 2 weeks earlier. I was like, y'all really building the drama of this. And this is what I do have to say. I think this is really effed up. If this man got jilted at the altar, then why are you then going to go back 2 weeks and show this man so excited, telling his family and friends that he got picked for the show, showing him picking out his tux, showing him at the bachelor party? I was like, that's really effed up. Because I don't know where you go from here. Next week's preview, it shows him reading a letter from his bride, basically apologizing. But what does this mean for him? Are y'all going to find him another person? I'm so confused. If you're not going to find him another person, then showing all of this just seems really cruel and unusual, to show how he got jilted and to continuously show him with the other guys. I think that's really messed up. If you don't find another person, I don't think that makes any sense personally. And there's really no point in really talking about him because, again, he didn't get picked. So it's like, what are we doing? But I will say, at the bachelor and bachelorette party, I said Michael was present with the men and they show him with the men. But if he's with the men and we know that the girl didn't jilt him until the actual wedding day, that means the bride, whoever his bride is, had to have been at the bachelorette party with the other girls. But they were very careful in the way they shot everything, so you never saw her. And I think I kind of understand not showing her because, I don't know. I don't know if I really understand. I don't know. Because then why show him and he's all embarrassed? I don't know. I didn't really get that part. I thought that was kind of strange. But this week we had one official wedding. We had the wedding of Emily and Brennan, I think. Yes, Emily and Brennan. Those are the people that got married. So actually, before I talk about their wedding, I'll talk about the other couples. There wasn't a lot. It was basically just them, again, telling their parents, telling their friends and family that they're getting married. So Austin and Becca are both 31 years old. Austin brought his parents over to his house and he told them face to face, hey, I'm doing this experiment. I'm getting married. His parents, neither of them are really here for it. The mom just seems really cautious and worrisome. And the dad said, and I loved it, he said, well, chances are good it won't work out. I was like, tell him how you really feel, Dad. But I appreciated his honesty because, again, if you know the statistics of the success rate of the show, it's not that high. But I will say, and I've been saying this for years, I don't think it's the fault of the experts that the success rate is not higher. I think it's definitely the fault of the people who jump into this and they just automatically assume, oh, things are going to be perfect because a matchmaker hooked us up. So obviously you're my perfect match and we're going to have a wonderful life and it's going to be great, blah, blah, blah. Just because you say you're ready for marriage doesn't mean you're really ready for all that marriage entails. I'll probably be saying that a lot through these recaps and reviews, so just make sure you keep that in mind. But I did have a question, because we've seen before how the parents sometimes don't really agree with the children doing this. And my question was, do they not agree because they don't want to see their kids get hurt or embarrassed? Or do they not agree because they don't think their child is ready? And I think in this particular case for Austin's mom, I think it's that she doesn't think that he's ready. He has said that, his parents have been married, I believe, for over 30 years, and I really want what they have, and I'm ready for it, and, whatever. I will say that we didn't really get a glimpse or I don't think we really got a glimpse of what his relationship history is. And so I don't know if that's why the mom thinks he's not ready, or if she just thinks in general he's immature. Like, we don't really get a handle on where her reservations are coming from necessarily. I mean, they seem to, love him. He reassured them that this is something that he can handle. And I'm like, you don't know that, because you don't know what this entails. At the end of this experiment, you are going to have a wife, and that's pretty much all you're thinking about. They're not really thinking about, they're thinking about the good part of marriage. I don't say the good part, but I guess the romanticized part of marriage. Like, oh, I'm going to have someone who has my last name, someone who's wearing my ring on their finger, and someone I can come home to every day. And all of that is true, but you're also going to have someone that you have to be vulnerable with, someone that you're going to have to listen to their problems, someone that you're going to have to put first. And if you're not used to doing that, that's difficult. Or if you're one of those people who it takes them a while to open up, technically you only have 8 weeks to really convince this person that you are the person they should stay married to. And if it takes you more than 8 weeks to really open up, they're not really getting a chance to know you. They have nothing to go on to decide to stay married to you or not. It's a lot of stuff to consider. And I don't want to say it's great that he's optimistic. Obviously, you're optimistic because you signed up for this. But I understand the parents basically like, you don't know if you can handle this or not yet. You don't know nothing, dude. Like, get out of here. And then the girl, Becca, she calls herself quirky. She says she likes to have fun and go against social norms. She's a wedding photographer with pink hair, so she's a creative, which I think is cool. She also has an autoimmune disorder that impacts her spine. And she had abdominal surgery that led to endometriosis. And she's hoping that she won't be seen as a burden by the person that she's married to. I think that is important. And I think that is definitely, I don't know how much her autoimmune disorder impacts her life on a day-to-day basis. That is a lot for someone to, I don't say deal with, but deal with is probably the right word. That is a lot for someone to deal with, especially a stranger. It's one thing if you have been with this person for a while, if you're married to this person, obviously, they say through sickness and through health and all that stuff. And a lot of marriages get tested with that promise early on in their marriage. And some people don't get tested with it at all. So the fact that in the very beginning, he's going to have to know this information is I don't say it's going to turn him off because he already signed up for it. But I think that you see the true character of someone when they have to take care of you. I think that's going to be very interesting to see if he has to be in a role of a caretaker for her at some point during this process. And then also with the endometriosis, this isn't true for every woman who's diagnosed with it, but for some women who have endometriosis, it's harder for them to conceive. I don't know if that's the case for her, but I think that is something that, and I also don't know if she wants to have children. She may not, but I don't know if Austin wants children either. But I think that's something that could possibly be a conversation later on down the road. Because this is my first time really seeing the people one-on-one, I won't be able to give a prediction yet on who I think is going to make it or not make it. I think I'm going to wait till all the weddings happen, and then in that episode of my YouTube channel page series, I'll give my predictions. I'm not going to do that just yet because I'm really just learning who everybody is right now. But that's Austin and Becca. The next couple is Lauren and Orion. Lauren is 31, Orion is 27. Lauren is Black. She's the only Black person on the season this year. And Orion is Native American. They both have a history of queerness, and they both are very deep into their individual cultures. And right now, that seems to be the only two things I see that they have in common. And I know those are kind of two of the driving forces of, oh, we should pair them together because they're both big on celebrating their culture and they both have queer tendencies. It's like, I mean, okay, that is something in common. I don't know how concrete those two things are when it comes to them actually being a good match. So I think that's something we'll see. And maybe there are other things that they have in common or other reasons why they would make a good partner for each other. I just didn't really see that when I watched the episode. That's pretty much all I had to go on. Like, that's kind of surface level. I don't know how sustainable those two things are going to be, but we'll see. What I did say about Orion is that he looks a lot like Michael, who's the guy who got jolted at the altar. I thought that was kind of strange that he looks like him. He talks a lot about being Native American. He wants to introduce his culture to his wife. It says he explored his feminine side, or whatever. His grandparents were married for 63 years. His friends, one thing they warned him about is that I guess in past relationships, he tends to rush things. And they were telling him, yes, this is a rush process. And really, when you think about it, you are getting married right away. You are moving in right away. But that doesn't mean you can't take things slow. Don't immediately think that you have to be in love with this person right away. Don't immediately think you have to, shower them with whatever every single day. Like, just take it slow. Get to know this person. This is a perfect opportunity for you to just sit back and relax. You don't have to do all of that quote unquote work of trying to rush into things, hoping it'll turn into something permanent. You're starting off permanent. So, and I think that's also a different perspective that I've never really thought about, right? This is a rush process of getting married and establishing yourself as a husband and a wife. But because the permanency is right there from the very beginning, I think it is a perfect opportunity to take things slow, to actually get to know the person, to get to know who you are, to really just kind of talk to them. Now, obviously, both people need to be on the same page with taking it slow, but I never really considered that perspective before, which I think is interesting. And I think depending on how you were in previous relationships, that may determine how you should or should not be in a marriage. Because a lot of people, on the show, and seasons past are like, oh, I've been meeting the wrong people, or, I tend to do this in relationships and I know it's not working. So I want the experts to find me somebody. And it's like, it's one thing to know that what you were doing before was not working. It's another thing to actively change what you're used to doing. Because we can acknowledge stuff all day long, but that doesn't mean that automatically we're going to change how we've been for years and do something completely different. Signing up for the show is completely different. But your mindset and your approach has to change as well. And I think that's one of the reasons why people aren't successful in the show, is because they're not changing everything. They're not changing their approach to the situation, their approach to a disagreement, their approach to compromise. If none of that has changed, then why are you here? You can't just change one surface level thing of how you met this person. Everything else has to adjust as well. So that's just a little tidbit. Like I said, Lauren is Black, so she identifies as queer. She's more attracted to the strength and bravado of men, though. So she's like, I'll always be attracted to both, but men is kind of what I want to go with. She said the dating in Denver is hard because it doesn't have a lot of color. I mean, I pretty much knew that, I think. And her friends said that some people can't handle her energy. She needs someone that's on her level. I mean, I guess, sure. And there wasn't really a lot to them. Her mom died this year, so she did cry when she's picking out her wedding dress because she never imagined doing this without her mom. So it was a really emotional moment. And, she FaceTimed her aunt, and her aunt and her friends comforted her. It seemed like really good friends, and that's pretty much it. Like, there's not a lot to really report on, guys. And Cameron and Claire. Cameron is 32, Claire is 27. Cameron has always wanted a wife, but he has a fear of failure, but he's seeking to conquer them. And I like that, because at first when he said he had a fear of failure, I was like, oh gosh, what does this mean? But then he talked about how he started with all of his childhood fears. He conquered all of them, and now he's getting through his adult fears, and he's actively going out and conquering these things and not allowing them to hold him hostage, which I love that, because sometimes what they'll do is they'll have somebody who has a fear of everything, and they'll pair him with someone who is just life of the party, and they, take chances, to quote Miss Frizzle, they take chances, make mistakes, and get messy. And it's like those two personalities do not always mesh well. I know the theory is that, oh, this person is going to help such and such get out of their head and live life more, while this person is going to help bring them down to, just bring them down, whatever. And it's like, that doesn't always happen. In theory, maybe it sounds good, but my whole thing is, here's a quick aside. If you have a person who is super shy and a person who's like really extroverted, right? Again, they'll theorize that, oh, the extroverted person can help the shy person come out of their shell. The shy person can help the extroverted person calm down a little bit. You're operating under the assumption that the shy person and the extroverted person want that. Like, they're not happy with who they are. Like, they want somebody to help them be the opposite of what they are. That's not always the case. So pairing up opposites like that isn't always a good thing. It's not a bad thing to be shy, not a bad thing to be extroverted. So I always thought that combination of pairing people like that, I always thought it was kind of strange. Just me. So, okay, for Cameron, his parents divorced when he was 13. He is from New Zealand. So he has an accent. His friends and his family are in another country, so it's pretty lonely, but he wants to establish a family in Denver. His friends, he has family friends that he talked to. They told him to be patient when explaining his opinions. So I guess he is one of those people who listens with the intention of talking, as opposed to listening with the intention to understand the other person. That's what I got from that particular comment. And they said that he's picky, so they're very surprised that he would want to do a show like this. And it's like, okay, so that could mean that normally when they say somebody's picky, that person is almost always not attracted to their spouse. Or they tend to nitpick on really small things and blow them out of proportion. Like, oh my gosh, they do this little teeny thing. They obviously are not the right person for me, because I can't believe they would do such and such. And it's like, in the grand scheme of things, there are a lot more important things. So picky could mean a couple of different things. So we'll definitely see what that means in the future, I'm sure. Claire, I loved how she broke the news to her family and friends that she was getting married. She did it through a game of charades. I thought that was so incredibly clever. And she's a therapist. She's a quadruplet, but her brother passed away. So it was 3 girls and a boy. And since her brother passed away, that encouraged her to be a therapist, to help people. She wants a man to take her. Now, this is someone who actually wants to be taken out of her comfort zone. She wants a man who's spontaneous. She wants children. She wants someone goofy, someone she can have fun with. And her mom hopes that she meets somebody, or that her husband will give her the nourishment that she needs and is worthy of her daughter. It's like, oh, that's very sweet. And I kind of explained not my hesitancy, but I guess one of the things that could potentially be a roadblock for Cameron and Claire, because Claire is a therapist. Sometimes when people are in a certain profession, they don't always know how to turn it off, or they're so tired of being on all the time that they want to turn it off in their personal relationship, but that can kind of backfire sometimes too. A therapist is very good at listening and helping you come to a conclusion, right? But if you're in a relationship, Cameron may not want to be therapized all the time, right? And then on the flip side, if Claire decides she don't want to do that in a marriage, which I definitely understand, the tools that she gives to other people, it may be harder for her to employ those tools herself in her own relationship. So that's a possibility, but we'll see what happens with that. So we'll go to the last couple, the one that actually got married. That is Emily and Brennan. Emily is 29, Brennan is 28. On the outskirts, I guess, it seems like, Emily is also the one who's a red flag for me, who has never been in a relationship her entire life. If you've never been in a relationship, your first relationship should not be a marriage. Point blank, period. There is no other thing to say. That is period, exclamation point, underline, italicize, bold, all of that. That makes no sense at all. The bare minimum, being in a relationship, whether it's for 6 months, 2 years, whatever, it puts you in the practice of putting someone first. It helps with communicating with other people, with compromising with another person. And for Emily, having never had to do that, how do we expect her to know? To do that right away? I don't understand why she was chosen for the show. And they've done this before, where they'll have a man and or a woman who's never been in a relationship before, but they really want to get married. Just because you really want this does not mean you are really mentally prepared to do it. So that bothers me. Emily's also life of the party. And a lot of times when they describe somebody like that, especially because we saw her at the bachelorette party, she was getting sloshed, hammered, and she's trying to twerk on the wall. She has a very short dress on. It kept riding up. It's like, oh, okay, you're that chick. Okay, got it. And you know, you're supposed to have fun at your bachelorette party. I'm not judging her. I don't care. But again, I know from years past, the show will take a girl who says, I'm life of the party, I like to hang out, I like to be with my friends, whatever. They will purposely show repeated clips of them drinking, repeated clips of them partying, repeated clips of them coming home late. Even if these instances are like really spread out, they'll shoot them in a way to make it seem this person is doing it every single night. And they've done this before to people where it's like, okay, I don't know if that's the whole story or not. You're showing this every week. That doesn't mean they're doing this every week. Like, we don't really know because it's not shot. And, you know, we have to remember that, and I keep reminding people, and I have to keep reminding myself too, we're seeing it every week. But that doesn't mean they're not following the same time sequence of when the show is being aired. We're seeing this once a week. So by this time next month, in our heads, oh, they've been married now for a month. They actually haven't. Actually, for this season, they've already had decision day, and who knows who stayed together and who didn't or whatever. But the timing is always off. But again, the way they shoot things, it makes it a little confusing. So I do fear that they'll do that with her at some point. She is a life of the party. She's high energy. She wants someone to remind her to tone it down. I think that's always a really, not a hard ask, but it's a dangerous ask, because Brennan does seem like he's a little more, not stoic. He seems a little on the boring side. It seems like he's the quiet person. So again, these opposites, right? Emily will bring him out of his shell, and Brennan will kind of bring her down a little bit and remind her to chill out. Why does she want someone to remind her to tone it down? You're 29. Why do you need to tone it down? Why is that necessary? And again, to say that that's what you want, and then if he starts doing that, are you actually going to accept that? Because are you ready yourself to tone it down, right? Because you can say, oh, like, I'm wild. I just want a man to kind of whatever. Just like, but is that really what you want? Do you really want that from him? Because if he starts doing that and you start resenting him, like, now where are we? You said you wanted this, but now he's doing it, and now you're mad at him. Like, I think that's always a weird thing to say, that I want a man who's going to help me be more calm. You should be working yourself to be more calm if you feel like you need to be more calm. Like, and it's okay for a man to gently say, hey, things are getting a little riled up. Let's just take a breather. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. That's, you know, I don't know. I always get a little leery about people who say stuff like that. But again, she's never been in a serious relationship. She's never gone past date 3 in her 29 years. And again, my thing is, because they've said this before about this person, she's always said, like, oh, I'm picky and it just doesn't work out. And it's like, if you've been dating, however long you've been dating, and you haven't gone past date 3, there has to be something else there other than the fact that you're picky. And not saying that it's all on you and you're this terrible person or whatever, but there has to be some kind of accountability. Like, it can't just be every single guy has been a douchebag. Like, there's something about you as well that is not allowing this to go to date 3. So I need more information on that. Let's see. She had a good childhood. Her parents have been together for 20 years, and that gives her hope. And she wants someone who's ready for commitment. Her friends were surprised at her decision because of her lack of relationship. And I do love that one of her friends had a talking head, and she was like, I love Emily, and I don't want to say anything bad about her. But basically, they're like, girl, you've never been in a relationship before. And again, you've never had to focus on anybody else but yourself. I don't know if this is the right thing for you. And they didn't say that to her face, that this isn't the right thing. They were just like, I mean, are you sure? They told her, though, that she needs to focus on what other people want, because that's challenging for her, especially because she's never had to do it before. That is very key. And again, you can say that to somebody all day long, but again, she's probably not thinking about that aspect of marriage. She's thinking about, I'm going to have a husband, I'm going to have a permanent relationship. That's what she's thinking about. Not everything else that's involved in that, and not all the work that she has to put in to make that successful. So Brennan told his boys he was on the show. He's from New York, and they said it comes out when he's mad. I want to see that just because I'm curious to know what that looks like, right? I'm not from New York, but I went to school in upstate New York, so I was around a lot of New Yorkers. And my assumption with a comment like that is New Yorkers are very honest, sometimes brutally so. And I guess they can be harsh sometimes in their speech. So I'm assuming that's what it means, that when he's mad, he just says stuff without thinking about the other person's feelings. I'm going to assume that's what that means. Not sure, but that's kind of what I got. He says for his parents that even though they've been married for a really long time, they had a difficult time communicating with each other. They fought a lot, and he doesn't want that. And I did know that I think that's very good that he understands that's what he doesn't want, because some people will grow up in an environment where their parents are fighting all the time and they may think it's normal. So when they grow up and get in their own relationship, that's how they communicate, because they think that's what they're supposed to do. So I'm glad that growing up, he saw that and knew that wasn't the right way. And he's actively making sure he does not repeat that same behavior. So I appreciated that, because not everybody has that mindset. His friends encouraged him to be vulnerable, to make her comfortable. The experts are confident that she's ready to be a good partner. And I'm like, she's never had practice being a partner before. So how do they know that she's ready? Like, again, she can say, oh, that long is what I want. That don't mean she's ready. That means she's available. That don't mean the chick is ready. Just, my opinion. So she picked out her dress, blah, blah, blah. This was, her friends definitely called her on her stuff, because she's picking out a dress, but it took her a while to come out in a dress that she liked. She was kind of stressing. She was like, I just feel rushed, and I need to, I want this, and it just isn't working. And, just kind of getting panicked a little bit at finding the right dress. And her friends asked her basically, like, do you feel rushed about the dress, or are you feeling stressed and rushed about the process? And she kind of dodged the question, and they were talking to themselves. They were like, they're worried that she'll dodge questions when her husband is asking them, because she doesn't like doing the hard stuff. Like, she likes to pretend everything's okay. Meanwhile, everything inside her is bottling up, and she's getting panicked or she's getting upset or whatever. So they kind of warned her, like, hey, you're going to have to actually talk. You're going to have to communicate, and don't be dodging questions from your husband. And I don't have sympathy for, I feel rushed. You signed up for this process. It's a rushed experience. You have 2 weeks to do all this stuff before you get married. Like, this. So, girl, I ain't got no sympathy for you when it comes to that. His friends also warned him not to check out when times get uncomfortable, as he sometimes does. And it's like, So that could be something that comes out, which I think is also interesting, that on one hand, when he gets mad, the New York in him comes out. But on the other hand, if something gets uncomfortable, he checks out completely. So the fact that both of those exist within him is kind of fascinating. And I'm sure we'll probably see both sides throughout their marriage, of him shutting down completely and him also like blowing up. So I think that's going to be a really interesting mix, and to see how Emily really responds to that. One thing I did say from the beginning, when they're both getting ready to get married, I was like, they're definitely going to be attracted to each other. That's not always the case, but she's a pretty girl. And just from the little bit I saw of him, I was like, he's going to find her very cute, and she's going to find him attractive. Like, I definitely saw that for both of them. And she said like something about being a wife, and she's like, oh, it's weird for me to say wife. And I put in my comments, it's probably because she's never even said girlfriend. So of course it sounds weird to say wife. You never know nobody's girlfriend. That's probably shady. I don't care. I'm not lying. So, so her thing is that she thinks no one has been good enough for her to date. So she didn't want to spend time dating for no reason. But she says she has a lot of love to give, and she's ready to give it to someone. And she's determined to find out why her and this guy have been matched. Again, I think that there's more to it than I don't think anybody's worthy. That I feel like there's 29 years of never having a boyfriend and not getting past the third date. I feel like there's some more behind it, but hopefully that comes out throughout the season. His parents were born and raised in Russia, and he thinks that they'll judge his wife but be nice up front. He said his dad has been harsh with a lot of his decisions, and that his parents set the bar high. Here's the thing. When it comes to that comment about setting the bar high, this is not a competition. Do not get married with the intention of having the kind of marriage that your parents have, or on the opposite spectrum, getting married with the intention of having the exact opposite of what your parents had. Have your own marriage, whatever that looks like for you, figure that out. And I think, again, a lot of people, when they sign up for the show, they're thinking about surface level being a wife, being a husband. but not really thinking about what kind of wife or what kind of husband they actually want to be. This is the time to figure that out, to talk with your spouse about what kind of spouse they want. Talking to Emily about, so what kind of husband have you always wanted? And her asking him that same question. I love when couples get kind of deep like that, because it's interesting to establish your expectations up front and to decide for yourself if you can meet those expectations. So I think it's key, and hopefully they'll be mature enough to actually have that conversation. She didn't get nervous at all until minutes before walking down the aisle. And she, again, she said, oh my gosh, figuring out a relationship while being married is a lot to handle. Duh. Again, why'd you sign up for the show? But I digress. So when they get up to the altar, I liked that when she got up there, he hugged her. I liked the fact that he was establishing physical touch early on. I think that helps her to be more comfortable, right? Because some couples, they'd be like, oh my gosh, he's holding my hand. That's so weird. I don't even know him. So I love the fact that he immediately hugged her to kind of put her at ease and probably put himself at ease too. And again, it establishes physical touch right away. Let's get used to touching each other. Let's get used to being in each other's space, right? So I like that he did that. And then both of the families will write in and say, you know, oh, Emily, Brendan's family wants you to know this about him. So her family said that she's fearless, driven, and an energizing bunny, but she's loyal and wants people to feel loved. His family said he's hardworking and loves deeply. And both of their families said they're both really big talkers, which is good. But also, big talkers doesn't mean you're big listeners. So I was like, okay, this could possibly work in your favor. We'll see. But that he's also loyal and considerate and big on quality time. One thing I was surprised about, they both, every couple writes their own vows. I love that in her vows, she talked about how this is my first relationship ever. I love that she started out that way. And it's like, I'm laying it all on the line. This is who I am. I'm not hiding anything from you. I appreciated that she was so upfront with that right away. That it wasn't something he's going to discover later on. I thought, I was shocked, but I liked that. I was very appreciative of that. I also said that for a 28-year-old, he seems kind of serious, but I don't know if that's just in comparison to her. But, you know, we'll see. And also, but they didn't hesitate to kiss each other. Sometimes on the show, the people do not kiss at the altar. They may kiss on the cheek, especially if don't let the girl not be attracted to the dude. And she'll definitely give her cheek. Or if she's like, I'm not going to kiss him because I don't really know him. And I don't really kiss him and it's like known him for a while. And it's like, girl, why you sign up for the show? But again, not my business. But that was the first wedding. So that's pretty much how the episode ended. Next week, I believe we'll have 2 more weddings. So we'll get to talk more about how those brides and grooms are. And then a week after that, we'll have the final wedding. But I still don't know what's going to happen with Michael. Hopefully we get, no, I can't say hopefully. They're not going to tell us anything next week. But either way, I'll be here next week recapping and reviewing Married at First Sight season 17. Again, make sure you like this video, share this video, subscribe to my channel, comment below so we can talk about the show or talk about whatever you guys want to talk about, honestly, because why not? There's no boundaries whatsoever. But I love you guys. Thank you so much for rocking with me for all these years or just for these past, 37 minutes and 50 something seconds. And yeah, I will see you guys next week. Peace.